Well, this was 8 years ago. I had a call from my eldest daughter. I was in Spain. Bernard had left the day before to fulfill a commitment he'd made. My children got there to Aberdeen. I flew home from Spain. So it was an ordeal, and he was in intensive care. The paramedics had intubed him. He had to have oxygen. He was in a pretty bad way. He was shocked several times. They had the defibrillator. That was the amazing thing about the story. In the hotel, they had a defibrillator.
So when Bernard collapsed, obviously you weren't there, you didn't know what happened, but you've been told that they went and got an automated external defibrillator.
There were medical people within this room, which is very lucky. And there was a lady who had been an intensive care nurse who was able to perform CPR. Meanwhile, somebody's gone to get the defib, which was in the hotel gym. You know, they had everything they could. He had the best chance ever. Yeah. And then,
because without that defibrillator, it may have been a different ending.
No, it would have been and I get quite emotional speaking about it, actually. I'm sure you do your experience too.
Yes, yeah, it is emotional. It doesn't matter how many years pass. And my husband died suddenly and he couldn't be saved. But with Bernard, he was saved. But it's still the same emotion because it's the shock and just so grateful that there was a defibrillator there. And I don't think people realise the difference between a heart attack and a sudden cardiac arrest.
No. Well, I've learned a lot, obviously, because and with working with your charity as well, I've actually had to give talks about things, and people sort of mention that they keep saying, "Oh, he had a heart attack." No, actually, he didn't have a heart attack. He had a cardiac arrest, you know. And he was saved by the defibrillator.
And just, a heart attack is the plumbing of the heart, whereas a sudden cardiac arrest is the electrics, hence why we need a defibrillator. It goes into a potentially fatal arrhythmia, a heart rhythm disorder, and the only thing that will get the heart back into its normal rhythm is the shock from a defibrillator. So Bernard was exceptionally lucky. It would have been a completely different outcome.
He was, incredibly lucky. Well, when I think about it, if he had gone back to his room, given his speech, gone back to his room, that would have been that.
If he'd still been with you at the house in Spain?
That would have been a problem too. But, because we live sort of in the countryside. Anyway, it was a traumatic few days.
Now that you know about defibrillators and how it definitely saved Bernard's lives, where do you think there should be defibrillators?
Oh, gosh. Well, during the campaign, and, the thing that I remember that the phrase that we used was they should be as ubiquitous as fire extinguishers. They should be everywhere. They should be accessible to everyone. And as you said, cardiac arrest, not everybody can be saved, but everybody deserves the chance to be saved. And you don't know that until you've used the machine, and plus they're so easy to use now, which I think is another anxious point for people who don't know much about them, But they should be everywhere. But schools, we obviously tried to get them into golf clubs because, in fact, a lot of people do suffer cardiac arrests when they're in their leisure time, and on golf courses, it's quite a well-known fact.
Absolutely, and anybody can use a defibrillator. It's so easy. You don't need training. The machine talks to you, and you can't harm anyone. You cannot harm anyone, but you can possibly save a life like Bernard's. And that's why it's so important with our defibsavelives.org campaign and the work we've done with you and Bernard. Yes, defibrillators in golf clubs, but in all sports clubs, in communities, schools. We should all be less than 3 minutes away from our nearest defibrillator, just like a fire extinguisher and smoke alarms. It should be as common as that. And more people like Bernard will be saved.
that's the great thing about the campaign. And you know, we actually put a defibrillator into Bernard's, into the golf club where he learned his golf in his little hometown in Scotland. And we put one in there, and the bar staff and the steward, you know, had the basic training, and they used it on a 42-year-old man with, you know, he had 2 young children, and they saved his life. And that was like, oh, this is just, you know, this is amazing. Otherwise, he would not have survived that.
Well, every day there's approximately 250 people dying from sudden cardiac arrest in the UK alone. It's more common than lung cancer, breast cancer, bowel cancer, road accidents combined. And then you hear stories like Bernard. The
there
man
have been
you're talking about.
several stories that
so
we've heard.
So many of these lives could be saved with this simple AED, the external defibrillator.